We're gonna definitely go over a bunch of different things that some of you guys know already, some of you don't. We're gonna kind of give that refresher as to what's happening, but Paul's gonna come on here in a second and just kind of walk through some of the new reportings. We've added some new statuses, things like that. And then what we wanted to be able to do is talk you guys through a couple different dynamics. We get a bunch of calls and saying, hey, what's going on with my merchants, my spring merchants, my fall merchants? So we're going to have a conversation of what that's going to look like, and then we're just going to talk through kind of that reality, guys, of the money that's being allocated for each of you. And so, I think we were pretty clear in October, but we want to be more clear, and we want to kind of break that down for you and understand, there's not unlimited resources, but we're doing the best we can to manage an allocation per rep and so forth. So we're just going to talk through those things. Again, if you guys have questions, man, go ahead and put those in the chat button. We'll definitely address those questions as we move forward. So, guys, we appreciate everybody being on here. I know we tried to give everybody a quick status update, and I think this is great that everybody's on the call today. So, that being said, Paul, if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Why don't you give us a quick update?
All right, sounds good. Yeah, as Brad said, I think the biggest thing is we've started to receive some emails as you guys come into your gold card renewal season, and I know everybody does it a little bit differently. And I think that's one of the things that just so you all understand that's hard to evaluate and manage is that truly each and every one of you manages your merchants in a different way. And so some of the things that we found is that some of you have jumped on with CMA and wanted us to utilize the system and for us to be calling and renewing some of the spring tickets, and we kind of started that, and and I think it was difficult, just to be totally honest. It was difficult, and the reason it was difficult in ways is that a lot of you have never actually used a calling system, a phone call, a telemarketing, or anything to renew your merchants. A lot of you have actually physically gone out there and continue to do that and talk to your merchants face to face. Or maybe if it's not you, it might have been a situation where you hired somebody as your merchant rep to go out in that territory. And then for others of you, we've worked with some that have used a phone system or a person to renew via the phone. I know Tony Simonov and Eric and Steve and Bill have all used the phone as a method to do that, and maybe a lot of you do a combination of that. And so, from across the board, one of the things I would say to everyone is that if your merchants were used to receiving a phone call, then it's an easier transition as a CMA representative gets on the phone, contacts them, and they understand kind of the program. On the flip side, if you haven't been that way, then, and some of you have emailed me back and forth and said, hey, they think that you're a fraud, or they think that this is bogus, that you're just some new company trying to, steal their business, even though when we're calling, we're saying to them, hey, we're calling on behalf of the discount card and the program that you use with this school. Sometimes they just flat out don't believe it because they just haven't been used to receiving a phone call. So again, there's an entire gamut between a merchant who picks up the phone, is completely friendly and understands the system, is like, oh, yeah, I love it, let's go ahead and renew, to another merchant who, you have to basically kind of pull teeth to get them to that point. One of the things, we started this with earlier in the year was the ability for us to, send them an email. And that's how we started the program, is that, hey, as you guys probably know, sometimes if you drove into your territory and you stopped by a location, is the point person or the manager or the person who needs to sign that agreement always there? And the answer is no. And so if that's the case when you physically drive by, imagine that's the case when we call in. So whether we're calling, prior to lunch, because we know that a lot of these are food locations, and so we can't hit them during their busy hours between lunch and dinner. And so we've got that limited time windows in each time zone to hit. So the first thing you'll see is that, we're not going to get a hold of them typically in that first call. So it may take anywhere between 3, 4, 5 calls, or, sometimes never, to get a hold of the right person to be able to authorize that offer. But that's the first step. Then once we get them on the phone, then we have to have the ability to go ahead and say, great, let me review that offer with you, We review the offer, and once that offer has been reviewed, the only way we could do it would be to send you an email. Well, how many people are busy? How many people ignore emails? How many people could it possibly go to junk because it might have been their first time receiving an email from, a new email address or something they don't have? So that means what? That means an additional phone call that we have to go after and continue to call that merchant. And once again, now we get back on that same scale of 3 to 4 calls trying to get a hold of that merchant to say, hey, did you get my email? Did you get my email? And, hey, all I need you to do is click a button that says approve, right? So that's how we started. Then we talked about the ability to add texting. So that's great because then that gives us another way. So I can talk to a manager and say, hey, listen, to make this easier so you don't have to worry about that email, if you can just give me your phone, hey, we'll go ahead and we'll send this to your cell phone. Just click on that link, and so we had some good success with the text. But then you also deal with that. You're an assistant manager who goes, I'm not giving you my mobile phone. I don't want to give you that number, right? So again, you're dealing with a little bit of, some scaredness of an employee or whatever that might be to get through that process. So we have emailing, we have texting, and then, Brad and I were talking about this, and I fought it the entire time, he says, why don't we just do a voice authorization? Once we get them on the phone, we've got them, and so, hey, we don't have to send them an email, don't have to send them a text, they don't have to approve. If I just said, hey, can I have your permission right now to, record your authorization? And so I wasn't sure we would be able to do it with our phone system. We found a solution, and we started recording voice authorizations. So now that kind of eliminates, or it does, the majority of that follow-up to get their approval. And so once we added the voice authorization, Brad, you were right, I was wrong, that really helped because now I had the manager on the phone, the general manager, the owner, whoever it was, and we could just basically say, great, let me review that offer, record it, and then we put it in the database, and we save that to our database file of their voice signature. So that's been helpful. So those have been the ways that we've been able to, as a telemarketing team, be able to receive their approval. But like I said, it is difficult. And kind of to recap kind of where we've been since last April till today, and as we're going into this new season, the other thing is that one of the biggest reasons that we were partnering to make this thing happen was to not just get the physical offers in the database and to be able to help you with a great management tool, which I think you have. I think you have an incredible tool to be able to monitor your merchants. And I know some of you, still haven't given us your merchants, and that's okay. You just don't have the ability to utilize this. But once you understand it and once you can see the reporting and the different features that you have, you've got an incredible tool to manage your own database. Even if you don't want CMA to ever call, you've got an incredible tool right here. But our purpose was to, hey, we want to expand that mobile market, right? So we wanted to talk with those merchants and be able to get them on the mobile platform so that we didn't just have the physical product that allows you guys to continue to sell what you need to in the market, but also add those same merchants into the mobile market. So from the time that this launched and as we continue through this process, the initial phone calling, we were already past the fall season, and so we didn't have to worry about the gold cards from last year. And as we headed into winter and really got CMA working full speed, then we basically didn't know without talking to certain reps who wanted spring worked on and who didn't. And everybody, again, does it differently and has different time periods. And so we worked on the spring tickets for the ones of you who communicated with me, probably directly, or the staff, and said, hey, can you help me work on this particular program? And we worked on that program. And as far as percentages go, guys, it's across the board. I know that we did one for David Wright up in his area, and we focused on his, and I think we got about 35%. And you look at that number and you say, wow, that's not a lot. Well, we don't have unlimited resources to basically focus on one rep or one territory when we have, all of you to work with. And so we've got, again, a limited amount of phone calling, and it also has a deadline because you guys have to print. And so we understand that we have to work within that. And tickets are harder to work with than gold cards. And to you, maybe it's just visiting a merchant. But from the telemarketing aspect and getting that phone call and talking to them and say, hey, that's easy, you've just got one offer for the same 4, you guys know you can look at your tickets and go, hey, sometimes I have 4 different offers. Sometimes I've got, a multiple of different things. And so communicating that, getting a hold of them, and maybe for reps who hadn't been used to the phone call, Again, in David's area, that was one of those examples as well, because he had a lot of merchant reps physically meeting merchants. And in other areas, we did pretty well. I know when we worked with Kelly Norland, we probably had maybe like a 75 to 80% conversion rate on his tickets because he had been using the phone to get a hold of them a lot. So again, it just depends on your individual styles as it relates also to the success, that we've had in working with those programs. Recently, we've had a couple of you say, hey, listen, when are you going to start working on our gold cards? And we've started to do that. We still have a few ticket programs out there that people are working with. Still, some of you have a staggered scale of when your tickets are launching through the spring, and so we're trying to work through that as well with you. But we just did a kind of our first transition in February to go to doing a gold card, and one of the reps wanted to test me out. And so he said, hey, let's see what we can do. So we picked a city in his territory that was too far away from him, and he didn't want to drive. And so I think we had 16 merchants, and this was all gold card. And of the 16 merchants, we contacted them in a matter of a couple of days. Again, one city, we were able to renew, I would say, 85%. And the reason we only renewed 85% is because the other ones, 2 of them were out of business, and then I think we had 2 that we were left still trying to get a hold of the right contact person. Larger chains like a Sonic or something like that, so again, a little bit harder to get to the person who was the contact. So in that example, in just a couple of days, making that transition, it was pretty easy to go ahead and do that, and it was great to see, an 80 to 85% conversion on that as far as the gold card. So just to give you guys again, some stories to see, what the percentages have been, but like, I mentioned, there is limited resources based upon the rep. So a rep who's submitted, say 180 merchants is going to be totally different than a rep who's submitted 500 or 1,000 merchants. The money that was collected was the same. And so we have to kind of evaluate that and say, okay, how can I do this to the best that we can across the board and divide this up amongst those reps and to have some good success working from time zones, and working within a time period that, isn't lunch and isn't dinner. And so that's what we're working through. So that's kind of the status of where we've been and where we're at. We're wanting to make that transition to kind of be done with tickets and move into 100% gold cards in this time period. And we're going to start going down that path and renewing them. So anyway, that's just a quick update on kind of where we've been. I wanted to show you a couple of the things that we've done. Some of the things, one of the biggest things that wasn't in there that, as we built it, didn't realize as much was, hey, how can I actually look and see from a merchant report aspect how many merchants have been renewed for this particular time period? And so we didn't have that initially. And whether it was just short-sightedness or, hey, we built this database with your assistance and a team of you and looking at the merchant agreement, but just a merchant agreement into a database doesn't necessarily mean it gives us the reporting that, you guys wanted to make this thing happen. So I'm going to show you a couple things. Obviously, you should be familiar with this screen. Every one of you, when you sign in, it's the same login that initially, at least, that you had when you logged into your Simply Rewards account. And probably the biggest thing that we did was added this tool to the merchant report. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Merchant Report here. This is from your overview, and I'm looking at a rep login example right now. So I can log in as my CSR, and we can look at some reporting. But here I want it to be familiar to you, so we're looking at it from a rep overview. So I can come down here, and I can select the rep. This is a demo account, so it may not work exactly, but we'll try it here. So I'm the rep in here. I can choose a specific city if I want to. I can choose a specific state if you work in multiple states or a zip code. Don't worry about the wellness offers. We've talked about that in the past. Merchant status, I would typically just default this to selecting all. We've used some of these from the telemarketing standpoint. When we first get them in, we know that we were needing to call the merchant. When we first got them in, we know that they were ready, but we needed to upload a logo. Once they've been out, we find out that they're out of business or they don't want to be a part of the program. That's an inactive, but maybe your out of business report might be good. So you can look and see some of the businesses in a specific city that, we've contacted and found they've gone out of business. Terminated by CMA, maybe it's a duplicate is usually what we're using this for. We've found a lot of times we've had the same merchant get entered multiple times, and we've had to delete those out. A merchant comes in brand new and we want to make sure that we review them, so we pend an approval by CMA, making sure their logos look good and their offers are, appropriate and things like that for our school market. So, and then really live merchant. So the goal that most every merchant is in the system right now is sitting at live, and that doesn't necessarily, live just basically means typically we've got an agreement from you, we've put in the physical or the physical ticket, gold card offers, online mobile offers if they gave us one, and we have a logo. That's what defines a live merchant. All right, but if I were you, I would probably just leave it as select all. Then here's the offer types. So online offer, mobile offer, we're going to probably be focusing on the physical offer. Once I choose physical offer, you can see that the drop-down shows up, and I can choose to look and say, okay, I want to look at just my gold card merchants. So we can do that. I can look at my corner clips, I can look at key tags, and I can look at ticket coupons. So from what we've seen, those are the three most popular ones for most of the reps. I've seen a few VIP cards out there and a few corner clips. So if I want to look at that, I can choose the physical offer and get specific. Now, how do you know that your key tags are going to show up on this report? The only way that any one of these would be known is that when you sent in a copy of your merchant agreement on that physical offer, and again, we're calling them physical. I know you may not have, but because it's a physical product, that's why we call it physical offer. You would have indicated that the offer you gave us was a key tag offer. You would have indicated that it was a gold card or a ticket or coupon type of an offer. And sometimes you actually indicated it was both. You might be working with a merchant who says, hey, you know what, no big deal, let's go ahead and make that key tag offer the same as the ticket. And so we've seen a lot of that. And so, is that a duplication in the database? Potentially, but we had no other way of doing it other than really looking at the way the merchant agreement came in. All right, so leave the merchant status blank, physical offer, you can choose what you want. Let's focus on gold card. And then we have the offer status. Now we can look at all offers, and once again I would tell you that initially when all of these came in, if you had a signed agreement, we put them all at live. All right, all that means is, like I said, we have a signed agreement and it's been working for the 2014 to 2015 season, so we called that a live offer. Now, here's where maybe the programming initially we didn't have a good understanding of how you guys were going to do it, which was, okay, now I want to renew that for this coming season. Well, that offer is currently already live, so how do I indicate that that same merchant now wants to renew for another season? Because in our mind we were saying either your offer is live or it's not. But really you might have multiple live offers. So we've had to rethink this a little bit in the last couple of months in dealing with some of the spring tickets. And so we said, okay, you know what we're going to do is we're going to have to work on something and just change the status. And from now on, we don't really care if your merchant was live or not from an offer. Again, live status as a merchant is different than an offer that was live. So offer status, we're going to select renewed, and then you can see the substatus. And this is what we added. We added the basically 2015-16 spring, 15-16 fall, and then moving into the next year. We also said these were more internal things that CSRs, our customer service reps, would have to work with and need to send out an approval or upload a logo or needed some additional info before we could do anything. But really for you guys, you'd be looking at these. This now gives you the ability to say, okay, I want to look at all my statuses, or I specifically want to see who have you renewed for 2015-16 spring. And if I wanted to add in one more variable like the primary school name, I could do that as well. Now, because we're looking at a bogus account, meaning my account, if I hit search, you're going to see that we've got just probably a couple of test things that came up. But all of the parameters are what's going to define these search results right here. So the fact that it's a physical gold card that has been renewed for 2015-16, you would see that we have these two merchants that have been renewed. So then when you look at your report, you can say, okay, wow, great. This merchant and this merchant have actually been renewed for 2015-16 spring. Same example for a gold card. Let's do that. I'm going to switch it to 2015-16 fall. Guess what? I've got 0 merchants. So there's no merchants that we've renewed in this example. Now, if I wanted to say, hey, what about all my merchants that are currently renewed status, we could look at that, but that's not going to really give you any good reporting. Now, because this is a demo, we're only seeing 2, and so I can't define, if I'm looking at all substatuses, how do I know which one is 15-16 spring, 15-16 fall? I don't know because I'm pulling all substatuses. So this is not a really good report to say renewed without a sub. I would always choose, probably let's say for this example, the 2015-16 fall. Now, the other offer status you can look at is now we're talking to them, and we're talking to your merchant, and there's an approval pending by that merchant. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we've talked to the merchant, we've either emailed them or texted them, so they verbally agreed, but they have not clicked the link, and for whatever reason, they refuse to do the voice authorization. In this example, the substatuses are good because you don't really care, honestly, do you? You don't care whether we emailed the approval, we texted the approval, we faxed them, or we mailed them. We try not to mail them. In those situations, we basically send you an email and say, hey, this merchant wants it mailed, so maybe when you're in that area, go get that merchant agreement signed again for this guy. So you don't really care whether it's emailed, texted, or faxed. We know that that's just an internal tracking. So in this example, you could say, oh, well, check it out. So my gold card offers, we've actually got 5 merchants that have approved it verbally, basically, but they just haven't actually clicked on the link to approve. So that's actually helpful as well. So we could say in this example, we've got 5 merchants that are, approved for our gold card, and then if I wanted to go back and say who was actually renewed, I'd be able to look and say, okay, back in here, I've got, this example, I've got my 2 that have been there. So I've really got 7 that have been verbally, 7 that are renewed, 5 are waiting to click a link to approve, and 2 are 100% renewed. So these are the options that we have for you to be able to look at your territory. Now, not only can just the CSR do this when they're making phone calls, but you guys can utilize the system as well. So, I'm talking to David Wright as an example, and he's got his junior or merchant rep, I guess, is out there and working in the area, and he's like, okay, so tell me who you've renewed first, and then tell me who I have left to do. All right, well, one more search. We now obviously know how to do my reneweds and who's there. Let's now switch this to say, okay, my live offers. So if I look at all of my live offers in my territory, again, you might want to search this by city or by program if you want to try to get, this number smaller. If you've got 250 merchants in the system, you're going to pull up a longer list. Of course, you can always click on the city, and it'll sort the city for you, all right? But if I look at my live offers, what that means, these are all the offers that we have from last year that are basically 2014 to 2015. When you did your gold card last year, this would be the reporting that you would see. All right. Basically, that's what we're looking at, Brad. I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to jump into the CSR module because I think it'll show just a couple of different reports that it might be easier to utilize. So I'm going to go to Jeff Scott as an example. We've been working with Jeff on some spring. You have a question, Brad?
Nope. Go ahead, Paul.
So we're just going to use this as an example to look at the tickets and coupons. So physical offer ticket for Jeff Scott. We've added this in for the CSR module. I'm just going to leave it open. And then I can look at all offers, or I'm going to look at renewed, and I'm going to look at substatuses for 15-16 spring, and I'm going to hit search. Now, guys, I can't show you a whole lot of reporting for gold cards because, again, like I mentioned, we're just now starting that. So for Jeff Scott in his entire territory, as the CMA team started calling on his, you can see that for him alone, we have official approvals of 53 of his merchants that have been renewed in his territory. So there was 53 merchants, 100% complete on his tickets. So he could look at this, he could sort it by city, and he could say, okay, in Anna, I only had a 10-ticket program, 10 different merchants on here, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this area, and so those 5 merchants are 100% done. Well, in Benton, I don't know if that's a neighboring city of somewhere or not, but there's only 2. So he can evaluate that and go, okay, great, now that means I have to go after the other 5 in Anna. So same thing, whether it's a gold card or ticket, that's going to help you look at that. Then he can look down here and he can change that to approval pending my merchant. Again, forget about the substatus. Don't care if it was emailed or faxed, and hit search. Now he can say, hey, take a look at this, Jeff. We've got 10 other merchants that, again, verbally agreed to do these offers, but they couldn't click on the link. whether it went to spam, or they just, were lazy or whatever, ignored the email, these 10 merchants. So he knows that we had the conversation, but he's just got to follow up, and we're following up to say, hey, make sure you click that link, and he's at least got the verbal approval from those merchants in that example. All
hey,
right.
Paul, so these reports right now, every rep has access to this inside of their account underneath the merchant report?
Yeah, it's underneath the merchant report.
Okay. Why don't you just hit that one more time? So for everybody to understand, let's just go through that one more time so everybody's paying attention.
Since they aren't CSRs, we'll have to do it from their module. So as a rep, you come in and just click on Merchant Report. So click on Merchant Report. You choose your rep. It's probably defaulted to you. Some of you senior reps have asked us to show some of your junior reps, and so you might have more than one in that territory, but most of the time you select all or just your own name. Leave merchant status blank. Select all. Change the offer type to physical. You can change this to gold card, key tag, whatever you're looking at. And then the offer status, you would look at renewed, and then substatus 2015-16 fall is obviously what you're going to be focused on right now, and then just hit search. Again, this is a demo, so it's not going to show us any report.
Okay. So that gives everybody the ability for them to go in there and check that. And Paul, is, I think is a couple things, guys, is, we're getting some questions, and I think the bigger issues, is, that everybody's asking is, hey, how does this affect me? What does that really look like for me in my business? And for many of you guys, if we've called on your spring merchants, fantastic. Some of you guys we're getting ready to call on your fall merchants. And like Paul said, we're going to start, that whole calling process for you guys. The biggest thing that everybody needs to realize is we have limited, we don't have 100 callers in there, all right? So everything is being managed based upon time frames and based upon your calling. So it's important that you guys get with Paul, and so that he can understand, hey, what is going on, okay? When do your merchants, what's your time frames, because everybody's got different time frames. So if we know, we got a bunch of people that are, have to be renewed by the end of this month, fantastic. We start working on those. People that have to go in March, and then April, so I think that's where everybody's at, guys, is trying to manage everything as best as we possibly can. So that's where a lot of that is. Paul, are you done kind of showing this? Because
yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing is if you wanted to get it more in depth in the future, when you're actually doing it themselves, the other thing, Brad, is that, everyone has the ability with Access to do this themselves. So if you want to go in and you're actually talking to one of your merchants and you want to approve them, they have the ability to go in, click on Manage Their Physical Offers, look at the offers that are in there, and they can go ahead and they can set it up, and they can, again, renew it for the next and upcoming season. So they can do that themselves, so they can change their own report. They can add that physical offer for, let's say this upcoming season, and then be able to have that report showing them when they want to go back in that merchant's been updated. So this is an incredible tool for them. They can send an email through the database to their merchants as well. But, yep, that's about it.
Okay. Paul, why don't you just go to the PowerPoint really quick. And, guys, we just want to hit a couple things just so that I think everybody has a really good understanding, and I think we've tried to communicate this, over when we're all together in October. So let's just go down really quick. I want to give you guys a quick update. So you guys, we talked about the vision, correct, of CMA, become the largest network. We talked about our, competition, all that type of stuff. Let's go to the next slide. So just you guys have known this. We've talked about this. We wanted to create a place, a technology platform to be able to do all this stuff. Really saves you guys time, manages your whole entire merchant. I mean, guys, we've looked at every one of you. Everybody's got a different way to handle it. Many of you guys don't have a good handle on it. So we built a technology that would really come alongside you and really help. And I think some of you guys that are using it absolutely love it, okay? This money that you guys all put in, where's this been going, all right? So, guys, we've been literally putting those things in relationship, data input and calling. That's really what it is, all right? Data input and calling. So let's go next slide. All right. So the reality is just kind of give you guys an update. So here we were in October when we all met in St. Louis. You guys all can see that at that time we had a little over 7,000 merchants uploaded. We had converted 2,700 of those to online merchants. Okay, what we're looking at today, October, February, what we've done, we've added another 5,546 merchants to the entire system. We've added another 1,500 mobile, okay, from that process. So part of that initial stages, guys, is getting these merchants in, get them in the database, right? That is a bunch of work. That is a bunch of money. So let's look at the next screen. So if you guys look at this, all right, and this is just, you know, we went through the breakdown for you guys in October, all right, but hopefully this makes it better for you guys to understand what this looks like. So if you delivered, you know, 150 merchants versus the person who put in 750 merchants. So we want to break this thing for you, because what we're feeling and what we're sensing from some of you is, hey, I put in 500 merchants. I want them all in there. I want you to call and I want you to renew 100% of them. Okay? And guys, that's an expectation that will never be met. Okay? Pure and simple. So if you were to look at the merchant allocation, how many merchants you put in, and then you look at the data input cost. So if I just break this down and said, hey, you put in 150 merchants, awesome. We spent about $400, $500 inputting all of your merchants into the system to get it organized and work through that entire process. Fantastic. So if I spent $2,500, how much money do I have available to get through the calling? Oh, that's how much. So now I've got $2,000 that we kind of allocate. We look at every rep and go, hey, this is where we're at, and this is the type of hours that we can apply towards the rest of that balance. You know, here's a rep that puts in 750. Gosh, how in the world are we going to go in there and renew all your merchants, guys? Let's be realistic, you know. So if we've spent $2,200 inputting all your merchants into the system, there's 14 hours that are available. We're not going to get through a whole lot of calling based upon that. And ultimately, guys, when we first started was we're putting all this in here, reps were calling, keeping everybody busy, and that's kind of this allocation that we've had to really look at and sit there and say, hey, I can't keep calling on this guy's merchant. So if I've spent, you know, 50 hours calling on your spring tickets, right, and then then we have another 500 merchants that we need to call for your gold card tickets, right? We can't allocate those type of resources because we burned up a bunch of that money for you in your spring tickets. If not, we're not being fair to the rest of the people. So as the guys that are on this call, just understand this is where we've been, all right? This is what we've been trying to manage. Is it perfectly scientifically allocated? Did I overspend on certain reps? Absolutely. Did we underspend on certain reps? Absolutely. And so what we're trying to do, guys, is manage this as best as possible. Again, remember, you guys, Adrenaline didn't have a system for any of this stuff. Everybody did it individually. So what we took from kind of the board and what we took from some of you guys strategically is try to put together a system. And as we built some of the technology, realized, gosh, guys, it wasn't good enough, all right? And so what did you have to do? We had to come back and rebuild. And then all of a sudden, hey, how come we didn't do this? And so what do? We turn around and do this. So, guys, just understand we want to help you guys as much as we possibly can to get through this, all right? And part of it, we really want to be in a position to meet everybody's expectations. As Paul mentioned, certain ones of you have great relationships with your merchants. They've been used to renewing this type of stuff. So when we call them and say, hey, we're calling on behalf of Steve Berger, you know, Eric Deaton, fantastic. Man, they know those people. Calling another rep that, man, I don't even know who that rep is. I know the school. but I don't remember the rep's name. Man, we just get into more conversations trying to authenticate what we're doing and how we're moving forward. So that being said, what we're going to end up doing, guys, right now is continue to move down this path, right? We're moving down this path right now. We're finishing the spring tickets. Some of you guys, if we spent a bunch of hours on spring tickets, realize we're not going to be able to have the same amount of hours on your fall cards and your your discount cards. So for us, that's what we're really trying to do, is balance all that, and we're going to do the best we possibly can. And I think as you guys send an email to Paul and say, hey, Paul, when can we schedule a time, so that we understand what your needs are, we understand how many merchants we have in the system, and what we can do to apply hours to get people allocated to those time frames. If we know what your deadlines are, guess what? We're going to work to accommodate as much of that as possible, guys. We got people that are trained right now, and just to give you guys, everybody knows this, but man, this is not an easy job. This is a thankless job. This is a job that you get beat up on. It's not a whole lot of fun. So as we have, hired people, we kind of shared with you guys how many people we've hired, how many people we've fired, how many people have left us. We've got a really good team of people right now, and that team of people are engaged, and they are working their butts off. Us, adding a voice authorization has changed the dynamics greatly. That really is helping us get to the point where we're getting a much better conversion. Obviously, man, the email wasn't a huge success. The texting wasn't there. So again, we're doing the best we possibly can to get these people. I wish, guys, we could get 100%. I wish there was unlimited dollars that we could really apply, thousands of man hours for every one of you guys to really get this thing to renew all those merchants for you. Based upon the money, based upon those circumstances, that's hopefully everybody has a good picture of what we're going to be able to do and what we're not going to be able to do, and hopefully everybody can adjust their expectations as a result of that. Paul works his butt off. You guys all know that. He takes a lot of criticism and a lot of kind of abuse from some of you that never appreciate a whole lot. So those of you that have expressed a lot of gratitude, we're thankful for that, because it's encouraging, because you do get beat up, guys, in this process. You have to talk to the reps all the time, and the CMA callers, and they take a little bit more breaks than normal because of kind of that dynamic that's taking place with some of those merchants and just the attitude that's out there. So I think at the end of the day, guys, you're seeing a lot of results taking place, and I think ultimately we're going to know now we're going into the gold card season. It's a pretty defined script. It's a much easier call, and I'm excited for us to be able to get a lot of those merchants renewed and things moving forward. So hopefully that answers a lot of those questions. And again, as you guys make a call to Paul, send him an email to schedule a time so we know what your expectations. Gosh, if you got merchants that you've got to get signed by March, fantastic. We want to know what that looks like. If you're in April, great. We know what that looks like. And again, think about the different calling dynamics. So it's important that we're managing the different reps. So as we work on the Eastern Standard times in the morning, and then we work all the way through the Western dynamic, those are all the things that we're really focused on. So that being said, if there's any questions you guys have, we've got a couple questions that are coming in. But ultimately, if there's any questions we can do for you guys, let's do that. Guys, there's been people that have definitely paid into the CMA system. So those are the guys that we're working with right there. We're really committed to that, and we're working with you guys to get those things done. Some of you guys, some guys paid into the whole deal and haven't submitted any merchants, right? Because they're scared and they feel like they're going to get screwed and they're going to take their merchants away. And that's okay, guys. And hopefully those people over time will feel more trusting. And I think we've done everything we possibly can to build trust, to let people know we're here to partner with you guys. But for those people that just put in money, that money that the Adrenaline's paying in, fantastic. Those extra hours can be allocated to some of you. So that's what we've been using, because we know certain reps aren't going to put any of those their merchants in there. So great, we've got some others that we can really make that thing work. So guys, we're excited about what is happening. I mean, you start looking at 12,000, 13,000, and by the way, that's not multiple. That's not all the multiple locations, right? So when you put in multiple locations, we're probably closer to 14,000, 15,000, right, as a job. So if you look from back in May to now, man, I think we all got to look at that and be pretty excited about that. And I think for many of you, we've got some great feedback and said, man, this system is awesome. There's things that you guys want. There's things that we'd like to continue to build. And we will continue to allocate time to be able to do that. But right now, we want to get after your calling for your gold cards, and let's get that thing knocked out as fast as we possibly can. So I don't think there's any other questions coming in, Paul. Anything else that we can address or you want to address?
No, there's not. Just basically, again, we had this last slide. I think we reversed the order, but we were just kind of saying, listen, you guys have the ability to add new merchants into your system as a rep. You can use the system to update their status, re-sign them. Searching the database is pretty darn easy just by typing in the merchant search icon and typing in the name you want, and then we went over that merchant report. So, and Brad, I think you just answered that last question. And, we're not going to be able to manage 100% of that merchant activity, but I definitely think that we can, partner it together to be able to, get a pretty good completion rate so that you guys are prepared for your upcoming season and school by school. So I think that's it. I appreciate all of you guys and your time and for being on this call. If you have any direct, follow-up questions or, want to reach out to me, email me, let me know.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.